that first incarnation of the band. First, I think the first name we had was like something.
It was Stone
Garden.
And I'll tell you what,
it's like Pearl Jam.
Stone Temple Pilots and
Soundgarden.
Soundgarden. Yeah, Soundgarden.
Cool.
There you go.
And
Soundgarden.
Should have kept it.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go back in time with you where you're a teenager. You're at that age where everything's kind of awkward. You're not fitting in at school. You got into a huge fight with your parents. You feel, and I remember this feeling, like no one understands you. So you go to your childhood bedroom, you grab your Walkman or your Discman, you put on your headphones, you hit play. And this isn't a stretch to say. You actually feel kind of seen. Take a listen.
I think I've got a lot of friends, but I don't hear from them. What's another night all alone? When you're spending every day on your own. And here it goes. I'm just a kid and life is a nightmare. I'm just a kid, I know that it's not fair. Nobody cares 'cause I'm alone and the world is having more.
That is Simple Plan and I'm Just a Kid. The scenario I just walked you through was the case for millions of kids all over the world who felt seen and understood by this music. The driving force for the guys in the band who wanted to form community, brotherhood, and connection through music. Over 3 decades ago, Pierre Bouvier and Comeau got together in their parents' basement in Montreal, started their first band. Since then, their music has taken them all over the world. They've sold out arenas and won Junos. But even more important than all the accolades, their music has helped their fans through some of the toughest moments of their lives. Now there's a new documentary that explores the creation of the band, the brotherhood behind it, the impact their music has had. It's called Simple Plan, The Kids in the Crowd. One of the great Canadian bands is Simple Plan, and here to talk about it are two from the band, Pierre and Chuck. How are you?
So good.
Great. Thank you so much for having us.
What an intro. Love it. Thank you so much.
We're out of time for the interview. That's
There
it.
you go.
That's
amazing.
And that's it.
That's all we need.
I was watching you, Pierre, during the song just then, and I was like, I wonder how often he hears the studio version of that song.
It's interesting because I think as a band we've always felt like, I love that record and we play that song every night. We play Perfect, we play Addicted, we play I'd Do Anything. But I have to say we've always, and even at the time, we felt like that record should have sounded a little bit more like in your face. And Arnold Lanny, who produced it, and I love him to death, the guy is so talented, had done Our Lady Peace, which is not a typical pop punk band, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So part of me feels like when we play it today, it sounds a lot more energetic and exciting. So whenever I hear it, I'm always like,
Can I tell you though, it did all right.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's the thing I have to keep reminding myself. And even like with Perfect, because when we made the record, I re-recorded the vocals for that thing like so many times. And he would keep coming back and say like, I need more like teenage angst. Give me like, I want like whiny. And I'm like, I don't know. It's a lot of whiny now. You know what I mean? And, but yeah, sure enough, like it sold millions of copies around the world. So he was onto something.
You know what? He was right. In the
yeah,
end.
exactly. Yeah. People love it.
Never trust your gut.
Exactly. Never. And since then, I have never trusted my gut. I'm like George Costanza. I do the opposite.
What are you doing here?
I'm practicing.
Why do you guys need to practice?
Because we suck.
When we were teenagers, Montreal was the mecca of punk rock.
My teacher at school recommended like you guys should start a band.
We were like, yeah, we should be in a band together.
Chuck, what is it like to watch your band's history laid out in a documentary like this?
Been a really emotional journey making it, watching it. We actually, a few days ago, we're just watching it. We had a friends and family screening in Montreal, and it was so cathartic. It was so special to be able to watch 25 years, your whole life. I mean, more than 25 years, because we were 13 years old. Yeah. We started playing, and to watch it, surrounded by your friends, your family that supported us and did so much for us. It was very special. It's so hard to cram 25 years, or a whole life into an hour and a half. But
Chuck wanted to make a series with it. He wanted to do like an 8-part series.
Right, exactly.
And Amazon was like, we're not doing that, Chuck.
Yeah, Brad Pitt plays Pierre, Yeah,
exactly. But it did feel, I think the word is really emotional, like a roller coaster.
Chuck was very involved with the documentary, and I think, it was a big one for him. He was very hands-on.
You not so much you?
No, it's because, we tour a lot. We are right now at the end of a 6.5-week run, and before that we were in Japan, Australia, and I have I'm a singer, so I have to kind of watch how much I can do, and like I gotta like pace myself, and like I can't be talking all night, and I can't be, I can't like sing for 3 hours. I can't then do meet and greets for all this time. But Chuck doesn't really have an off button. He like he really doesn't, and it's like that. It's a funny. It's sort of that tension between our relationship is because, and what makes Simple Plan work is that I like to think that I offer a lot of the music, a lot of the inspiration behind that, and but Chuck is really the driving force of like, it's not enough. Let's do more. 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 And that was he gets involved on every aspect. And for me, I was like, I am so exhausted, and we just came off all these tours. We're doing more tours, and then there's this crew following us. We're doing interviews, and I'm like, tell me where I have to be for my interview, and like, show me when it's cut. Like I'm not going to get hands on with this thing, but he can't let go of stuff.
I mean, but isn't it the story of the band in so many ways?
I mean, I think absolutely. Kind of captured the whole dynamic right there. With
there it is.
With question number 2, you're doing. That's why you're so good.
That's why I get paid the big bucks.
Exactly,
hundreds of dollars a year. Sorry, that's sort of it, right?
Kind of rewind a little bit at 13, 14 years old, like what you bring to this adventure, right? Like Pierre, obviously. Amazing musical talent. My favorite songwriter, my favorite singer, and I'm not just saying that because he's right next to me. I'd say it any time. And I'm not the best musician. I'm not the best drummer at all. There's so many better drummers. So for me, I wanted it so bad though. I wanted to be in a band so bad. Like at 13 years old, when I discovered music. Before that, I was a hockey player because being Canadian. And then there's a switch that happened. I discovered music, and then everything was all in. I wanted to be, and I was a band, and I wasn't going to let anything get in the way, even musical talent. I was like, I have to find something. What's my role? Yeah. And for me, it's been that drive.
Well, I want to talk. So there's 2 things I want to talk about really throughout the whole chat, which is like that the relationship between you two guys is sort of the engine of the band, and that there is such a deep engine of the band, that there's a tremendous amount of drive. And I got a couple of examples. But let's start with the relationship between the two of you. I knew your songs. I didn't know the story. I didn't know that you got together when you were like 13 years old and started making music together, and I couldn't believe it. Yep. So the original band Reset that you started, the band's still going, the band's still making records. But Chuck, what did you see in Pierre back then that made you want to work with them?
First of all, we met in high school. I think it was this T-shirt. He had like a Metallica or a Pearl Jam or a Guns N' Roses T-shirt, something I don't remember. But I was like, oh my God.
It was Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 in one shirt?
Correct. I think that's it.
Is there a yellow and the blue?
Oh my God, this guy likes the same music that I do. And it's like, we should be friends. And if I'm being, this is probably the right setting to be a bit vulnerable, but he was kind of like, he was the cool guy in school, and I wasn't that, and I was like kind of looking up to him. I wanted to be his friend, and so we started hanging out, and it's it all kind of started from there. And then I don't know why, I have no idea to this day, but our French teacher, well, actually I know, he had like a daughter that played bass when she was a bit older, and his whole thing was he liked to form bands in his class, and we were always in the back, me, Pierre, and this guy JS. And we were always talking, and he's like, he came up one day right before class, and he said, you 3, you should be in a band together. And I don't know what intuition that he had, but he played guitar, GS played bass, I didn't play anything. So I was like, I'm going to be the drummer. Yeah. Let's do this. Yeah. And I bugged my parents for weeks to get a drum kit.
Your dad calls it a phase in the...
He thought it was going to be. He's like, I'll get this whole beat up drum kit with broken cymbals, and like literally like it was 4 different kits into one. And but I got it, and the moment that it went into my basement, we all got together and we wrote we didn't do covers. We let's write our song. Probably because I couldn't really figure out what the other drummers were playing. So I was I'm gonna make up my own beat. And then Pierre knew a little bit more music. He showed me a few beats, and like right off the bat, we started making music.
I didn't know there was so much punk rock in Montreal coming through at the time. I mean, you kind of talk about it in the doc that, looking back on it, there was a wild amount of punk rock coming through Montreal at the time. Yeah. And Pierre, you were like getting into it through, records and like I think it was skateboard videos.
Yeah, snowboarding movies. Movies. There's one specifically called The Anthem that has all a bunch of punk rock in there, and that's kind of how I discovered it.
With retrospect, looking at yourself as a kid now, any idea why you were drawn to that kind of music? Because I find there's always something interesting about people who are drawn to punk rock.
I mean, I was always into that counterculture of like skateboarding. I started skateboarding when I was like probably, I don't know, 8 years old. And I just loved that. And my parents would always take us to Florida every year. They were like snowbirds. They would take a motorhome. And my grandparents had a little mobile home in Daytona. And we'd go down there. And every time we'd go down there were skate parks down there. There were like different things. There were skateboard shops that were so much cooler than the ones I had at home. And I would idolize that style, that counterculture. And I'd come back to West Island of Montreal, and I'd like skate in the areas, and like just that was like my whole identity. And then the music that came along with those movies was always kind of punky, and I don't know, I wanted to be, I don't know, like I felt badass. I felt like I listen to stuff that's like fast and aggressive, and I grind off sidewalks, and and I'm rolling on my skateboard, and it's loud, and it's who I am. And I kind of identified to that style and music. And yeah, Montreal was a mecca. It's funny because later on, as we became friends with a lot of these bands that we played shows with early on, I'm talking about like NoFX, Face to Face, 10-Foot Pole, all those guys. They later told us that when they go on tour, they tour America and they tour a bit of Canada, and they knew that when they would hit Quebec as the province, they were going to make so much more money than everywhere else. And they planned like, oh, what are you going to do when you get back with the money from we're playing Rimouski, Quebec, Trois-Rivières, Montreal, and Ottawa, and like, what are you going to do? And they would like plan like, oh, I'm going to make like $5,000. And at the time, making $5,000 was a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
So it really was like they were kind of like rock stars.
Yeah, they were playing like 300 people maybe in the rest of the states, and
they
then they
would
would
come
come
to
here to play
Montreal
3,000.
Yeah,
I mean, it was surreal.
And for us to watch those shows and to be there, I think it also to play along with them, because we were opening a lot of the shows for them. We got to rub shoulders with them. We felt like we were part of the club. So when it was time to be in Simple Plan or Reset or whatever we didn't feel like we were any different. We're like, yeah, we're like these guys. We can do it. You know what I mean? So.
And did writing come easily to you?
Yeah, I started writing songs at a very early age. Even before Reset, we had the first incarnation of the band. I think the first name we had was like something.
It was Stone
Garden.
And I'll tell you what,
it's like Pearl Jam's,
Stone Temple Pilots and
Soundgarden.
Soundgarden. Yeah, Soundgarden.
Cool.
There you go.
And
Soundgarden.
Should have kept it.
Yeah, exactly. So we started off like, and this is really 1993, I think, or 94, and literally we wrote 12 songs, and some of them are terrible. I don't even want to say the names because it's very embarrassing. Mm-hmm. But like, we recorded at my parents' basement. My brother, who was 3 years older than me, had a bit of knowledge of like studio stuff. They rented a 16-track cassette recorder, put 16 mics in the room, and off the floor, we recorded that, and we sold like 1,000 copies at our high school. This is when we're 14 years old. So yeah, we just felt like we could do any of it, you know what I mean?
I mean, let's just talk a little bit about the relationship between the two of you, because there's like an early challenge that comes up that kind of blew my mind, which was that with the band Reset, which you guys were both in at the time. I mean, Chuck leaves the band because he overhears you guys talking about him, and he's annoyed at what you're saying about him, and then you leave. What strikes me, Chuck, is that even that, and I don't know specifically what I'm curious about here, but what's interesting is that even that. Years later, you go back to Pierre to form Simple Plan.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to go away.
Yeah, we tried
he tried to look for someone else.
I mean, you have to understand that band, even though it's nothing compared to Simple Plan, but we had sold like 30,000 records. We were signed to like an imprint of Cargo Records. Yep. I mean, we were doing cross-Canadian tours. Like, it was our lives. Like, I mean, I was contemplating dropping out of law school at McGill to be like full-time in that band. So it was kind of like, it was serious for us, and that was crushing. That was devastating for me. It was like literally like it felt like I had lost everything, and I didn't want to play music anymore. It's like, I'm gonna stick to school. This is it. Like, I've tried and it didn't work out. But Jeff, who's our guitar player in the band, called me up, and he was a friend from high school. We had all grown up together, like same high school. We all literally went to the same school, and he called. He's like, hey. And he had tried to play with us back in the day, but he didn't like punk rock, and he didn't want to be in a punk rock band. So like, all right, we don't.
He was more into like guitar, like Joe Satriani, and we're like, no, we're not doing
Def Leppard, and it was like, yeah, no, it's not working, right?
No tapping.
And then he was like, and so when he called me, I was like, oh boys, we don't have the same taste at all. And he's like, hey, I heard you're not in the band anymore. We should start something. Like, I'm like, well, I don't know if we have. He's like, no, we're gonna try it. Like, something more like there was Everclear was coming out, and all these Eve 6 and all these bands, and it's like, oh, okay, I could try to evolve and do that. But we were looking for a lead singer everywhere. And to me, in my head, he was the bar. He was the guy that we had to beat.
Was it hard to reach out, though, after everything?
Well, we ran into each other completely by accident, by coincidence at a show. And I remember thinking in the back of my head, like, if I want this thing, this music thing, if I want to give it one more shot, this is the best chance we have. And he's the best. He's my favorite writer, my favorite singer. He should be in the band. And yeah, it was tough. It was tough because it was hurtful. We didn't talk for 2 years. But I think in hindsight, this is probably the best thing that ever happened to us.
Yeah.
Because instead of having that breakup and that fight and that pain at 23 or 24 years old when you're selling millions of records and the stakes are high, we had it at 17 or 18.
Yeah, you got it out of the way a little bit.
Right. Yeah. And now we knew, okay, there's a red line here. And now, like, as things got more serious with Simple Plan, the tensions still happen because it's hard to be in a band. It's hard to be in any band. But we knew, all right, this is fragile. This is precious, and we have to be careful with it because we had that previous experience, you know?
Let's just skip ahead to one of the early songs. Just take a listen to this.
I'd do anything just to hold you in my arms, to try to make you laugh. Somehow I can't put you in the past. I'd do anything just to fall asleep with you.
That is Simple Plan with I'd Do Anything. Song important for a few reasons. Not only your first song you guys wrote together as a band. Pierre, very I was thinking about this, a very tender love song.
Yeah.
What do you remember about writing it?
Well, here's the thing. Reset was like a very aggressive metal influence. Our guitar player at the time, Phil, sweetheart of a guy, just loves metal. He's just like Deicide. He likes Slayer. He's like, and the lyrical content from even when Chuck was in the band was slightly political, very and I'm not a political guy. I just kind of jumped on that because it felt like, oh, this sounds cool to talk about. And starting Simple Plan was kind of like the total departure from that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a song about a girl. And it felt so refreshing.
Did you have someone in mind? I know I sort of did a weird action during that one, but
yeah.
Were you writing about anyone in particular?
No, not really. I think I wanted to write a love song. I wanted to write a song about, I think a lot of the times when I write songs, it's kind of like making up a story in my head more than actual what I'm going through. Sometimes, of course, it's more than that sometimes. But for this one, I think it was really just, let's write a song about a girl. Like I've never done that before. It was never, literally, I'd written probably, I don't know,
2 albums at least.
Yeah, and never been just a straight up love song. So it felt so refreshing for me. And I would also, this is 1999, and Enema of the State from Blink-182 had just come out, and it's just like a refreshing new take on pop punk. It's kind of like, it's immature and fun, and it's like I just wanted some of that. I wanted to just do something positive.
Did your voice come easy? Because one of the things that strikes me is in the early days when I'm watching the videos of Reset, your mom is talking about why are you screaming so much?
Yeah.
And I hope you take this, I mean this as a compliment.
Totally.
Your voice is so recognizable.
Totally.
Did that come naturally? Was that just what came out when you started singing, not screaming?
I don't think that I'm a natural singer. I have to work on it, and I used to have tons of voice problems, and now I've learned the tricks of the trade, and I've sent so much vocal coaching and do this, do that. I can actually control it. But I was just the guy, part of the band that was not so bad at singing, and that's why I became the singer. You know what I mean? So my voice, I've never tried to shape it. It was just I'm going to sing loud, and that's what's going to come out, and that's how I sound. And I do agree that my voice is quite recognizable, and I think it's changed a lot through the years.
Yeah.
And even my wife tells me, because she, has seen us evolve. We've been together for 20 years. And she'll listen to Perfect in the recorded version. And she's like, you sound so much better now.
Yeah.
And
that's
I love
nice.
that, so.
Chuck, can you I want to get this early story from you. So again, let's talk about the drive of the band. The band gets signed to a big Canadian record label, but then doesn't. The deal falls through. You had planned for everything to work out. You're kind of crushed. Remind me of the guy's name, the sort of videographer,
Patrick.
Patrick.
Yeah.
Is he still with you guys? He's still working with the band?
He doesn't work with us anymore, but we're still great friends.
So he was the classic selling merch, walking around with a camcorder. He takes a job at another record label and finds out that one of the heads of Atlantic Records is coming to town. And you guys, this is where the wild drive stuff starts to happen. You set up a fake show So that he thinks you're a really big band and he signs you, right?
Yeah, and it gets even crazier than that. We used to cold call major labels, and we used to try to get signed. We used to send them like these FedEx packages, and I used to pretend that I was the band manager because I'm like, if the drummer calls, they're not going to take the call.
Didn't you call yourself Charles? Like I'm.
Yeah, I would call myself Charles Talbot, which is my mom's like last name. So I was like, oh, they're never going to find out. So I would call and say, hey, I'm Charles Talbot. I got this great band. They're from Montreal. You have to hear them. And I got through to this guy at Atlantic Records. I got through because it was hard to get through the assistant and all that. He picked up the phone, to his credit, and he said, I actually listened to the demo. This is really good. And I'm panicking on the phone. Oh, okay. Well, I'd love to see you guys live. But fast forward a year and a half later, we find out this actual guy.
That guy.
Is the exact guy. Andy Karp is flying to Montreal. He signed Kid Rock. He signed Matchbox 20. Like, I mean, massive bands.
Why was he going to Montreal?
To see this band called Rubberman, which was signed to Aquarius Record, who had signed Sum 41. And it's a pretty big label in Montreal.
Okay.
And they wanted to get them signed to Atlantic. So they're coming in. We have our intel. We have our guy on the inside, Patrick, our best friend. And he's like, you won't believe what I just found out. The guy that liked your band in New York, he's flying into Montreal. It's in 3 days. We have no show. We have no fan base. We've just been rehearsing in our basement. I'm like, we have to play for him. We have to figure out. So we called every club in the city. We begged them, please, we just need to play. We don't need to get paid. Just let us their stage. And we found this honestly dump of a club called Club Zone on Crescent Street. Terrible place. No PA, nothing. Literally just for the voice. That's it. We set up this thing. We ask all our friends, please come, pretend you're like, fans. We give them like the lyrics, like sing it, like,
You give them lyric sheets.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that's
$2 beer.
Yes, that's right. And literally, and then like,
and we're waiting.
And then Rubberman heard, like the people at the label heard that
we're planning this show.
That Andy Karp was like, I can't stay for dinner. I'm going to see this other band. And they freak out because they have this whole showcase and sushi everywhere, and they got money, and they're courting, they're courting this guy. They want him to sign his band. We have nothing. We literally, and our manager's supposed to fly in, and he's stuck in a snowstorm, and he's not coming anymore. It's just us. And Patrick is texting me, don't start yet. He's still at dinner. They're trying to slow him down. Don't start. And I'm like, the owner is screaming like, get on stage. We can't. And finally, he's like, he walks into the door. I greet him. I said, we need to play right now. Sit down. Let's go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, boom.
How was the set? Was it good?
We play our hearts out. I mean,
and what's funny? We were doing an interview earlier today, and I was thinking like how I feel before we play a big show. I still remember that's how I felt when we were playing that show, because we all knew this is it, guys. Like we were supposed to possibly get signed by Sony Canada, which, to be honest, was we were disappointed to even get that opportunity, because we're like, we want a major label in the U.S. and that fell apart. Yeah. And now we're like a year and a half later, and Andy Karp is here, and we're like, this is it, guys. Like, we got to play the best show we've ever played. It was like a team getting hyped up for the stage, and we went out there. We played the best we possibly could, and that landed us a record deal.
And you're saying that it's more nervous than you are now playing in front of like 60,000 people, 50,000.
It's the same. Like, it's like, even though this was in front of a room of like 100 people, and I had nothing to lose. We were just kids in a band trying to get signed. It was just as nerve-wracking as it is to play on a live show for 90,000 people. You know what I mean?
When I remember seeing when Mark Hoppus showed up, right, in the video and on the song, and it worked on. I wanted to tell you that it worked on me. That I knew Blank, and I don't think I knew you guys as well.
Yeah,
and I remember when he showed up. So Mark Hoppus, for people who don't know, from Blink 182, shows up in their music video, and shows up in Simple Plan songs, singing part of the song.
Close my eyes, and all I see is you. I close my eyes, I try to sleep, I can't forget you.
And I loved Chuck learning from the documentary that he kind of made it hard on you. I mean, this is kind of the Drive thing, right? Like, he says like, oh yeah, like he says essentially like, yeah, I'll do it, but he puts up all these
he kind of says, yeah, I mean, like, and
I'm at home, you got to come to San Diego.
Yeah, like, I'll do it, but like in San Diego, and I'm like, whoa, hold on, like, we're like, yes, we're signed, but we've never sold one record. Like,
I don't have any money.
We're making the record in Toronto, like, and then sure enough, we're like, we tell people, and like, oh my God, we have to go, and we got on the plane. We brought me and Pierre, like, no
tapes,
producer. We brought our tape. with us, and we're like, we can't get through security. It might delete the song, like, you know, like literally.
Don't put it in the X-ray machine.
and we get there, we call him up, and we're like, maybe he's not gonna answer. And like finally, he's like, yeah, come over. He picked us up. He brought us to, you know, if you're a Blink fan, he brought us to Sombreros, which is like in, you know, it's referenced in all their
shop.
records, like a Mexican place that they reference in their songs. They brought us home, and it was like a window into what was possible, what could happen, and the generosity of doing that for a band that had nothing going on. And this is why we talk about Reset in the documentary, because not only does it inform where we came from and our relationship and everything, but that's where we met Mark. When before they were called Blink-182, we played with them with our first punk rock band, and that's where we created that bond. That never happens if it wasn't for these, you know, these early years when we were 15, 16, playing, with this little punk rock band in Quebec, and them playing over there. And then he says yes. And what really struck me in the documentary, and I don't know if I ever told you this, but as we were doing it, we saw footage. Pierre is like, we don't have a producer there. So Pierre steps up, and I tell him, like, I'm so nervous right now. You have to realize, like, they sold 5 million records.
Yeah, this is
MTV Awards, like, height.
Yeah,
of
Enema
their
of the State. So
fame.
this is post Dude Ranch. This is What's My Age Again.
This is
after Enema of the State. They're on the top of the world.
They're U2.
They're about to make Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. They're massive.
Yeah.
And he sits down, and there's an engineer, and he starts to kind of produce Mark and tell him, like, no, sing it more like that. And I watched that, and I almost like I was like blown away that we were like, I mean,
I'm telling Mark how to sing something,
and I almost felt bad.
And I only did it because I was like, I want to make sure that what we go back, because we had worked on this record for like almost a year, and I'm like, I want to make sure that what we put down on this tape here, we're not going to go back and be like, I don't know if we like it. I'm like, this needs to be great. So I kind of stepped into my producer role, and I was like, try it again. That was a good take. You know what I mean?
But the balls and the audacity
I
to do
I saw
that.
it happen in the doc. I was like, he's this kid who just got signed, and he's
you
telling
could
him to do it again.
And you could tell Mark,
probably like,
in the interview, he goes like, yeah, they told me how to sing it, so I sang it. And you see him even in the footage, like going like, okay, you want me to do it again for real? Like, I mean, imagine if like, but I mean, we were just focused. We wanted it to work.
I mean,
you know?
and then it doesn't really work. The first record comes out, it doesn't sell right away. There's a scene in the documentary of you guys going to the shop, and it's not. You can tell you want to have this big moment, and it's not being stocked.
Yeah, you guys don't have Simple Plan? No, we don't have that. It's like, oh.
Well, we're on tour with Sugar Ray. They buy us these bottles of champagne. Congratulations, it's release day. You know, like this is the start of your new career. We're like, let's go to Best Buy. Let's buy a record. And we show up and they don't have it.
They don't have it. No.
I mean, how crushing. And that just showed that, like, to get signed, it's the starting line, right? I mean, it's nothing. You've done nothing yet.
But you're playing, you don't stop. You start playing I was blown away by the footage of you guys playing the parking lot during the Green Day and Blink tour. And I was struck by the footage of Pierre. You were literally walking around to people with a Discman in your hand, trying to get people to listen to Simple Plan, to get new fans.
Yep.
What was your pitch to them when you walked up to them with the Discman?
That was our Warped Tour technique. You walk around and you just find people and be like, hey, do you want to listen to this band? We're playing a little later. And most people would say no, and then some people would say yes. And then you'd play it to them, and they were like, oh, this sounds pretty good. Like, cool, we're playing it this time. Just walk over there. We did that on Warped Tour forever and ever. We'd have little cards.
Yeah, we wrote this, like, the stage time.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, 3:30.
On this stage, you know, and so we did that. That was kind of like the part, or is the way that we recruited most of our fans at the beginning.
And
like,
every band on the stage would play to, like, 20 people, 30 people. We would show up, we would have 1,000, 900.
And this is during Warped Tour.
And then when we did Pop Disaster, same thing happened. We would get all these people to start paying attention because we're like, we're going to do it the old school way, one fan at a time. We would jump in the crowd, go sign for them, take pictures. We just believed that if people hear us, I think there's something there. They're going to like it.
So here's the tension here is that that's a pretty DIY way of doing things. Like you guys got signed to a major label, but that it didn't happen because of the major label. Mm-hmm. You start, literally going around showing people your music in headphones and trying to get them to come to your show, handing out cards and, trying to get people on board. Mm-hmm. And yet one of the more compelling parts of the documentary, and again, something I didn't know, but I maybe could have guessed, is the tension between the punk community, like the punk music that you came up with. I mean, Pierre, you were just talking about some of those bands, and the vitriol you were getting stuff thrown at you. rocks and bottles thrown at you. You had journalists being pretty disrespectful to you, like right to your face. And I can tell that that was a tension even within the band about what happens when people are calling you, I don't know, when someone says like, what is punk rock? And there's an implication that you're not.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the conversations that were happening inside the band when all that was going on?
It was definitely difficult. You know, we were getting a lot of hate, and it's so weird because you don't really see that much anymore because it's so obvious that it's wrong. But back in those days, when you're coming out of the 90s and you're into the early 2000s, you were either punk or you were not, or you were metal, or you like if you liked hip hop, that's all. You didn't listen to pop music.
Yeah.
And everyone was very segregated in that way. And we definitely got the brunt of a lot of that hate, and because our music was, we came up from like the punk rock community, but our music was way more poppy, and we liked what we were doing. And we're not trying to say like I'm something that I'm not, you know. But people had this, they felt they had to slam us for that, and it was super hurtful. But luckily, we were building an amazing fan base, one fan at a time, and it was growing and it was growing and it was growing, and that was our inspiration to keep going. And it was like we knew that we were on the right track. And we knew that we had a path that we could follow that would work for us. But yeah, it definitely, it was...
Was it hard within the band? Like, was it tough within the...
Yeah, I think it was, but I think
it almost got us to be closer, you know what I mean? Like, because we had to band together to survive this, you know what I mean? You're going on stage, there's bottles being thrown at you, there's mud being thrown at you, people are flipping you off, yet there are a lot of people that are there for you, but who do you hear the most? You hear the ones that are yelling at you.
It became a bit of a us against the world.
Yeah.
I think it's always good for a band to have a common enemy, or to, you know, if it's a producer, that's great because it kind of unites you, or if it's like the haters or whatever, you have somebody, or the label or whatever it is, like it bonds you together. So I think that was happening. But I think also one thing that we would talk about is like, hey, if nobody cares about your band, whether it's positive or negative, that's bad. If people love you or hate you, it's because you're doing something, like you're creating this reaction. It's polarized, and that's a good sign. It means that you're actually moving the needle.
But don't you say at some point in the doc that I'm no longer embarrassed to be in Simple Plan? And doesn't that imply that at one point you might have been?
I think that, you know what was crazy, and still to this day, there's a little bit of PTSD that's associated with people. People would come up at the time and they would be like, hey, you're in Simple Plan. And I had no idea what was coming next. Was it like, I love you guys, or like, you guys are terrible, or even just like physically, like kind of like, you know, like really getting aggressive and like
you would, hey, you're in Simple Plan, and they'd get a little aggressive with you?
Oh, yeah, some people.
That happened to me. Yeah, that happened to me in Vancouver when I lived there. I was out with a buddy, and I walked out of a convenience store, and someone's like, hey, that guy from Simple Plan, man, your band sucks, man. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I keep walking, and my buddy's with me, and then he's like, I want to be the guy that punches the guy from Simple Plan right in the face.
Way.
And I was like, all right. And I just kept walking and walking, and then my buddy was like, kind of shoved him off, and I'm like, I'm not getting into a fight with this guy. But that would happen.
Yeah, on the Warped Tour, we wanted to, because you have to understand, it was really ironic for us because we had come from this punk rock band. We had played with all these like Fat Records, Epitaph bands that were like, you know, so credible. Yes, we had switched, but for us, in a way, we had paid our dues, and we didn't understand why. It's like, hey, we're changing our style a little bit, but we know this culture. This is our scene, right? So when people were like, we played this Bad Religion cover on the Warped Tour, the song that changed our life that we heard, it was called American Jesus. And I remember this guy from Epitaph came on stage like, fuck you guys, you should never play this song. You're not allowed to play that. And I was like, but it's our favorite song.
Yeah, this is the community.
It changed my life when I heard it. This is why I'm in this band. So it was really painful. It was tough. But what's actually really ironic, now that I think about it, talking to you, is it's all these punk rock ethos and like what we had learned from the punk rock scene that made this band successful. It's do it yourself. It's not giving up, and it's like, and it was all like taking care of your own band, not having a label or manager telling you who you should be and how you should. Like, it all came from our first band, and so it was kind of ironic that it was in a way like hurting us. You know that it was kind of. Yeah, it's funny when you think about it.
Well, I want to, Shirley, can you go back to 8? Can we play a little bit of Welcome to My Life, just a little bit? That's a good chord. It's a good chord right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good chord. That is "Welcome to My Life" by Simple Plan. So let's talk. I want to do the other side of this because I know you guys got a million interviews to do, but I want to go out like this. The other side of that is I was talking to someone today who told me I didn't even know this was possible. They told me they were so moved by that song, them and their brother, that they literally wore out the CD and had to buy another
I didn't know that's
yeah,
possible.
I didn't know it was
either.
possible.
Yeah,
They were
you
like,
could wear
it
out a CD.
stopped working, and we had to get another one. A lot of people, specifically a lot of younger people, really related to the things that you sing about. And what's amazing is that it wasn't a phase for them.
Mm-hmm.
Pop punk was not an adolescent thing, and they would grow into different kinds of music. Your audiences are me and people my age and older, as well as younger people, who all seem to be having, and I don't know how I put this, a incredibly deep emotional reaction to this music.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to say that in the introduction. Pierre or Chuck, can you give me a story, maybe to close things off, that has stayed with you? Something a fan has said to you about maybe what your music has given them?
Yeah, there's a message that we get all the time that started back in those days, and it still happens today. And it's the message of, hey, there was a time in my life where I thought about taking my own life. And I listened to Welcome to My Life, and it made me stop. And I was going to do it, and I stopped because of that song. And I'm here today because of your music.
Really?
Yeah, and it sounds ridiculous. Not ridiculous, but it sounds crazy to think that a song can do that. And you hear it once and you're like, I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. You know what I mean? It's like you hear it 10 times and 100 times, 1,000 times. And still today, and I'm like, this really happened. You know what I mean? And I think it's because there's a part of your life especially when you're a teenager, you don't know who you are and you don't feel seen. And you hear this song, you're like, I am not alone. And feeling like you're not alone is the best thing you could feel when you're going through something, because you always feel like, my life is falling apart. This is only me. Nobody gets me. And then you have a song that makes you feel like this band I look up to gets me. And that gives a tremendous amount of relief. And it's a story that still happens today. I hear it all the time.
Yeah, for me, I had recently a fan that came up to me and said, like, I hadn't talked to my dad in years, and we were estranged. Like, we, really didn't like each other. And then I found out he was dying, and I came to see him, and I played him perfect, and that was the last moment that we kind of reconciled. Like, we made peace.
It's peace through the line. I'm sorry, I can't be like
I couldn't be maybe what you want me to be, and maybe the dad understood that pain.
Man,
and I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but that really that means a lot to people, and I think that's. The way you talked about music, that's how we felt about the bands that we love, and that's how we feel about the music that we write, and that's why we call the movie The Kids in the Crowd, because we are these kids in the crowd that had that profound love for music and reaction to music, and now somehow we became this band that gets to write these songs that have that same similar impact for a new generation of people. And I mean, man, that was what we wanted all along, to be that band.
I said it in the intro. It's one of the great Canadian band stories, and I'm glad it finally got told here, and I finally got to learn more about it. Your music's meant a lot to a lot of people on this show, and a lot of people listening. So thanks for it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on.
That was
great.
Thank
That was
you.
weird. You both said it at the same time.
Yeah.
That is the rehearsal of two people who have had to say, "Hey, I'm," and we're Simple Plan.
Simple Plan. Yeah.